All righty, welcome everyone to 7 things every CEO must do to protect themselves online. Simple steps you can take to protect your identity, your family, and your reputation. So first, start out with a little concept first. Phishing, a form of fraud in which an attacker masquerades as a reputable entity or person in email or other forms of communication, right? It's really a key cornerstone to understanding, the risks out there. Just obviously talking big numbers, Google, Facebook, between 13 and $1,500 million most costly phishing attack. Why am I sharing this with you? Because phishing is the easiest way for hackers to scam you. So again, 7 things every CEO must do to protect themselves online. The simple steps you can do to protect yourself and your loved ones, and your reputation, business, all that as well. So why do hackers want you? Again, the executive, the owner. First of all, they want your identity. They want to be able to do things with it. Your privileges, they want to take advantage of them. And your authority, they want to be able to impersonate in order to get somewhere. So why do they want your identity? You can do things like file fake tax returns with the IRS, access credit cards, spend money credit cards, you never have that money yourself either, right? But a hacker would like to spend money that they don't have as well. Register new credit cards, again, same concept. Open lines of credit. There's even been cases of titles being redone, being redone with somebody's identity. So stealing the title of the house and access medical care. So that's identity, who you are, acting like you with your information to be able to get those things. How about privileges? So what do you have? You have email, you have contacts, calendar events, download those, access the computer network. So the privileges that you have in access in your network. Administrative access, some owners and CEOs, although I don't recommend it, have domain administrator, network administrator type access. I don't. I'm not really a technician. I haven't been for several years, so I don't need that access. I need to open a ticket with my IT department as well when I have things from my computer. But if you have those sorts of things, that is a privilege. Human resources data. Now I do have access to data. And so as a CEO, those are things that hackers want. What do they want to do with your authority? Now this is, in the organization, for example, one of the most common, I would say, recent successful phishing attempts on the small dollar scale, but large, number of them has been the Amazon gift cards, like getting people to buy Amazon gift cards because they thought it was the owner that sent them the email and said, hey, can you just run down to CVS and grab some gift cards? So that's taking advantage of my authority as someone who asks, other people in the organization to do things. Get a vendor to update payment information. Don't pay Groff Networks here, pay Groff Networks over here. And it's actually not Groff Networks, right? Convince human resources to send data. This was a huge compromise that did happen, has happened and gone to and been in courts and the like, where, whose responsibility was it? CFO sent an email supposedly to controller or someone further on down. Can you just send me over all the W-2s from last year? Again, using the CFO's authority to gain access to the identities of employees. Add new vendors for payment, another way to get money out of the organizations, and have your team wire money or have them wire it to the wrong place. So if your organization has to wire money anyway, convincing someone to do that. So what we're going to talk about today, so that's the why, identity, privileges, and authority. We want to protect those and use them with care in a digital world. So what are the 7 things that I'm going to outline here today? So first of all, know how to recognize a phish. That's what I just defined up front. It's the most impactful and easy because it's the easiest. way of using email primarily ways of getting you to do something. How to protect your passwords, keeping your Microsoft 365 account safe. It goes the same for Google Suite. Avoid smishing. I'll define that and talk about that. Avoiding multi-factor authentication bypass. It is a thing, and we will talk about how to avoid that. And protecting personal information. And then, of course, knowing if you've been hacked. What are the signs to keep your eye out for? First things first, how to recognize a phish. Let's define a few of them real quick. First of all, general phishing casts a wide net. You know, they're using and leveraging common vendors. Relatively easy to detect. And I want to show one that I literally, phishing attempt email that I got last night. Please sign on page 2 and 4. I'm like, I'm not expecting anyone to send me to sign anything. You know, SharePoint Online. We'll look at this more as we go along, but that's just literally an example of something I just got to of a phish. Now, spear phishing, a little bit more custom. So now it's focused. There's more information about you, the target. There's enough information to get you thinking that maybe this is, and it is probably somebody sending you something. It's not just a mass thing. That's probably what I just got. It was mass, sent one to many. Whereas this kind of stuff starts to get very one-to-one, and so it's harder to detect because they're actually spending time, putting it together and thinking about it, and figuring out how to get you to click on something. Now for CEOs, then you get to executive whaling. So this is very targeted, detailed knowledge, like everything that can be known about you, this person or entity is going to know, right? If it's on the web, they found it. But it's going to be hardest to recognize because of how much time is spent in it. And again, your identity, authority, and privileges is what they're after. And so if they can get you to do something, great example from Ocean's 8. The guy who was in charge of the security for the museum, they got him to click on something that was related to his passion around dogs, right? Like she knew, figured out somehow, through whatever that he, and then built something very targeted for him, right? So that was executive whaling. All these phishing attacks works the same way. First of all, they have to be believable. Can you update your means of payment in Amazon? Like it expired, your credit card expired. It's like you get expired credit cards all the time. Can you update? It's like, oh yeah, I should update that. Well, you're not going to get an email for that, and they're not going to send you a link to do that. But it is believable, right? Because we do need to update credit cards. Urgent. Oh, something just happened in my bank. And if this is your actual bank, then you're thinking, wait, is this from my bank? Blah, blah, blah. I need to click and get down to this, which again, that's not how Chase is going to contact you if there is something like that going on. And then emotional, like, oh, wait a second, am I hacked? This alert is triggered whenever someone gets access to your user's email. Like they're leveraging that fact that, maybe you've already been violated. And so that can get emotional. So protect yourself. First and foremost, we have to slow down, especially the executives of us. We have a lot going on. I was just talking to someone at the beginning of the meeting here that, it's like double duty now during the holidays. It's hard, right? To slow down and to make sure that we are not clicking too quickly, right? We got to know what we're reading. Hover over links to see details, and I'll show an example of that. Right, the hyperlink button in an email, you can always see what it is before you click on it, right? Do not click links in email at all, right? But hover over links can tell you if this is sort of legitimate. Anyway, you can go find your bank. You don't have to click an email to get to log into your bank, right? Don't use phone numbers from emails. And some things to watch out for here. An illegitimate or unfamiliar email address. Now, in the example that I had from SharePoint, this is actually the same. They're spoofing SharePoint Online's no reply. Like they're just spoofing it. They're sending it from somewhere else, pretending that it's them. Or the no-reply at SharePoint Online is actually compromised. Whatever. So that was legitimate. Sense of urgency, right? Please sign. It's not that urgent, but a generic greeting citation, right? Spelling and grammar mistakes. You're required. There it is. There's missing a D. Some of these actually, like the Prince, one of the original spams, the Prince of Nigeria, which I think everyone's familiar with, right? Please send me money. Yeah, they actually intentionally put in typos so that people think it's real, or they're looking for a certain demographic that will actually relate and follow through on those sorts of things. So there is actually an intent there, very interesting. But what you're looking for as an executive, obviously, you're looking for the professionalism misses. And then suspicious links. Here's you hover over it. Securitybank.net is actually malware.com, right? So that's an example for that. Unexpected attachments, and you'll see in mine, like actually, these are supposed to be links, right? They look like links. Attached, please sign and approve, like the blue, that all looks like, and I'm hovering over them and they're not clickable. It's the HTML that they want me to sign. Please sign on page 2 and 4, and it's an HTML file, so it can actually do something on my computer if I were to follow that through. So that's an unexpected attachment. I wasn't expecting that email. That's obviously the biggest thing. So how to recognize a phish. Now, how to protect your passwords. This is way before anyone was really concerned about cybersecurity. Everyone knew that, oh, I got to protect my passwords. No one did it. In fact, I love the comedian out there who talked about the, how the development of, or the evolution of the strong password. Everyone has an exclamation point after their password that they've used all along, that kind of thing. So let's talk about how to protect those. 4 to 5 breaches are linked to insecure passwords. Hackers are hunting for easy access, right? If you're a fan of the Cowboys and you use Cowboys in your password, and it's like your favorite number or the year that you set up that password or the last time you changed it, right? They're looking for stuff like that. That's easy to guess. Passwords can be the way in. So, and if you have the same password, for example, with LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, right? And LinkedIn gets compromised, username and password. Well, guess what? They're gonna buy that password. So obviously you need to be aware of when your password's compromised in some of these things. It's also why we change passwords on a regular basis. A hacker's gonna use that try to use it for your Facebook and Twitter account, right? Insecure passwords result in movement. So, finding passwords and then use them to access other resources. I was getting ahead of myself, but that's an example, right? Do not reuse passwords, right? So, well, how can I do that? I'd have to write every single password down. Do not use patterns. Oh, okay. Well, that was how I got around writing every password down. And this is the key. You write every password down. That's insecure. Granted, hackers aren't usually coming to your desk or your home office, right, to look over your shoulder to look at passwords. Although there was a fascinating story, bunny trail, about somebody was standing in front of his computer, took a picture, posted online, and the administrator password was a sticky on the screen. Got hacked. But also don't store it in Outlook, Word documents, Excel files, right? Those are all easily accessed digitally. Need a password manager. And you got to keep open to the news for when the password managers get compromised. Right now, LastPass is under suspect. Verdict is out yet, but they're all going to have challenges because everyone knows, well, That's where the gold is, if I can get there. And then this, we're saying here, set up multi-factor authentication on all your accounts. You need it on your password manager, and you need it on everything that's key that has any access. Then the other ones that you can't set up multi-factor or aren't as important, you have to just do a strong, like the strongest password you can that you're not going to memorize, but you put it in your vault, right? You put it in your password vault, and then you just can access it from there. For those that you can't set up multi-factor authentication. But, and again, it's something where you have, MFA is about, because password is what you know, and MFA is about what you have. And most people, you know, you're going to want to use an app, ideally, on your phone, not text, and we'll talk about why later for that. But for all your bank accounts, finance controls, obviously your Microsoft 365 and your Google email, like the business email, computer access. You don't have to do MFA every time you log into it, but it's got to be on some sort of regular rotation. That would come up again. And trying to think of well, obviously your password manager itself, and anything that's got any little bit of access, like payroll information, you definitely want to get your MFA on. So now, gone are the days when you just were logging into your computer and your email server was in your office, and as long as someone wasn't hacking into a computer directly, they couldn't get to your Exchange or email server that you might have had in-house. Microsoft 365 and Google Suite. They're all accessible in the cloud, which means they're accessible from anywhere. Now you can configure that differently. You can lock things down, but we'll talk about keeping that safe. So business email compromise, where the business was compromised through an email, right? 65% suffered business email compromise in 2020. And I think Greg Castle even said from 19, all of BEC in 2019 could have been prevented by just having MFA on, multi-factor authentication on that email account. So we're ticking up from 20 to 21, 77%. And again, obviously, if 2/3 or 3/4 of all businesses, not all of them are large, and I'll bring it down, but somebody, username and password on Microsoft 365 or Google Drive, Google email, Google Mail, inside a business, were compromised at some point. And so the scams continue to grow, 65% increase, losses 19 to 21. So the frequency is increasing, but the cost is also increasing. What do they get if they get your username and password and somehow get around MFA if you have it on? So what's in your email, saved items, sent items, deleted items, it is figuring out, right, how you live and breathe and move if you use email, right? Especially the corporate and business ones. And what's in your contacts, tasks, calendar, notes, that's what they're after. Obviously the impersonation as well, if they can impersonate you. They can send messages, and of course they can send ransomware to contacts, but often that's the last thing that might be going on. They want to go deeper, especially if they know it's an executive and they got in there. So for example, you can create, if someone has access to an executive's mailbox, create a forwarding rule. Let's say if the word invoice is in the subject, send a copy to the hacker. Move to deleted items. So then they can access, they know that there's something in, and then now they can put some, maybe send something in place of it, right? And get you to pay an invoice for a vendor that but they just gave you false routing information now. So biggest thing obviously is MFA, because username and password, your username is your email address. So the username is already known. That's half of the no factor. So then all they have to do is guess your password. Now passwords, can be, and by default, like anti-hacking measures are not in place on these platforms because they want you to have access to it. They want you, the user, to have access to it. And once you start turning that down, obviously then access is a little bit more limited. But you have to be the one that initiates that. Again, it's an open platform, and to make it accessible, but you as a user have to go to the measure of putting these things in place. So MFA is not a requirement. Microsoft would do well by the world requiring it, and more things are, as well as Google. Do not log in from non-work computers. Do not use free or public networks. Yeah, are some gotchas, or some warnings for sure. All right, moving on to smishing. And this is a little bit more rare of a concept as far as the name of it, but not on what happens. So if you got this text, yes, let's say your name is Mary. Is this Mary at ABC Company? Would you respond? So you just received a smishing. I can't even say it. It's SMS, right? Texting is SMS, right? So that's the first, the SM, replacing that for phishing. So they're trying to get you to respond. These attacks are on the rise, and then the FCC has put out that there are more and more of this out there. Robotexts are a rising threat, and that's literally, I mean, this is a little bit more. It wasn't a robo text, but Uber's experience in September was a result of social engineering. A hacker sent a text to an employee claiming to be IT. The employee handed over a password in text. One, don't ever send a password in text, but two, you want to initiate the conversation, if anything, or reinitiate, right? If IT were to call me, I mean, obviously I know all my employees, but in bigger organizations, like, it can get a little bit more removed. It's like, let me call you, right? And you call the published number of IT for the organization, and they'll know nothing about it because that was a hacker, right? So why are hackers doing this? Simple. They want either information or access to bank accounts, websites, social media, financials, Amazon, shipping sites, phone apps and accounts. They want to install malware. Like, what do they do when they get it? All those things. They can transfer money out. They can make fraudulent purchases. They can sell your account access to other criminals. But how does it work? So text message is delivered to your phone. You open the link. Convincing phishing page loads. You enter your information, username, password, bank details, multi-factor code, and a hacker wins the lotto. So don't respond to text or open the links from people you don't know. Attackers keep a list for future attacks, so that they know your cell phone number. Never share sensitive personal or financial information, especially by text message. Verify using another method of communication. Again, pick up the phone and call them on a published number. If somebody's saying, hey, call me at this number. Again, published phone number. Go to a known published website. You initiate, like, if you want to log into your bank, go log into your bank. Don't click on something. Obviously, misspellings, grammar errors, and numbers can be spoofed. So that's something to watch out for. Every now and then, things can be, somebody can text you from a known number that might not be the person. A little bit more rare, but it's still possible. So you want to validate suspicious or out of context links, even from friends, right? Government agencies almost never initiate contact by phone, definitely not text. When in doubt, you call them. And then report texting scams and spam attempts to your wireless carrier. You can forward the message to spam or 7726. And if you're a victim of fraud or receive targeted messages, you can file a complaint with the FCC. All right, we've hit recognizing a phish, protecting your passwords, keeping your Microsoft 365 or Google Mail account safe, avoiding smishing. Now we're going to look at multi-factor authentication bypass, MFA. How hackers bypass the MFA. So we've all had this happen, right? We need the MFA pop-up on our app to log in. I'm logging into QuickBooks or the like. I need something on my phone to allow me to get in. But imagine getting to 100 of them, right? So get a call from IT support. You get told there's a problem. Can you just approve one of those? You know, this is the only way we can fix it. It's called MFA fatigue. It's just one of the ways hackers are trying to, and some are successfully getting past MFA. One way is to port out your number, somehow fraudulently convince Verizon Wireless or T-Mobile or whoever that they are you, and I need to change the SIM card on my number. But how it works is to get around it. So first of all, you have to receive or respond to a fake website that will take in your credentials, maybe let's say Office 365 credentials. But those credentials are passed immediately onto the MFA protected resource, so that you get a legitimate MFA request. But then when you put in the MFA code, now the hacker is logged in. And what happens next is if you try to actually go log in to that resource, you're going to get password failed. Try again, because they just redirected your access. So now they have access to your Microsoft tenant. Again, through a fake website and actually approving what the system thought was a legitimate MFA request, but it was actually engineered. So never approve an unexpected push notification. If you have too many push notifications, you have to work with IT on making sure that it's the right amount. But often if there's multiples, if there's any that you didn't initiate, that's a concern. But if there's many multiples and it's getting a little fatiguing, you got to work with your IT on that right balance, because sometimes it's MFA is turned on and some systems it's just, you don't have to have an MFA. If I'm in the same context the whole day, I shouldn't have to do MFA 20 times for the same resource if I'm in it all the time, right? So there's a balance of it for sure. Don't give your MFA codes to anyone. It's just for you to access what you are accessing now. Avoid free and public internet, because man in the middle type stuff can happen there. Do not use non-work computers. You don't know what software is going on there. And don't click links from email. Examine them, put them in yourself in the browser. And that's how you can help protect against the MFA bypass. Now, on to number 6, protecting personal information. Do you have personal data on your computer? Maybe you have employee information, payroll data, contracts, tax files, loan applications, credit card, or bank statements. That's all personal data. That's all. There's data on there either for you, your company, or employees, or others, right, involved in all of this. So drive encryption, when your computer is encrypted, that's talking about at rest. So if I close my computer, put it to sleep, turn it off, the hard drive is useless to anybody else without my username and password. If the hard drive isn't encrypted, there's a lot of stuff that's just plain old in plain text, right? So the encrypted text sitting there is not, it would take a long time to break the lock, as it were, on it. But as soon as I log in, now everything that's encrypted on this hard drive, I have access to because I'm logged into it, right? That's the key that opens up the lock that allows me to actually look at it. It unlocks when you log into your computer. That's how the encryption. When you lose your laptop, it protects you for that sort of thing. But now if you're phished, that means I'm logged into the computer, everything's open and encrypted in plain text, and that personal data on my computer is accessible. So hard drive encryption does not solve for this. But what does solve for this is an encrypted vault, especially if you only unencrypt it while accessing it, right? So you put it in a vault, just like we talked about the password manager, keep things in a vault, and with more secure access to it, like using multi-factor authentication when I want to take that tax information out of REST and actually use it, not just have it on my computer and have everything available when I'm working day to day, you would use an encrypted vault. So verify, first of all, that you have BitLocker drive encryption so that when you lose the laptop, you're secure. But then for day-to-day use, you want to look at encrypted vault. Last but not least, how to know if you've been hacked. First, your password gets randomly reset. It's like, why is that happening? It's like one thing for the password to reset on 90 days, 3 months. But it's another thing to happen 3 times in a week. Like, wait a second, what is going on? Your email signature gets updated with like a phone number, anything like that. You start getting tons of spam, right? We all have spam fatigue, and the spam protectors come and go on their battle chess game against the spammers. But if it changes dramatically in a very short amount of time period, and then you start getting tons of pop-up messages, right? So this is traditional way. But also, you notice emails you didn't send in your sent items. So we went through how to recognize a phish, how to protect your passwords, how to keep your cloud, mail, and business account safe, avoiding smishing, and then avoiding multi-factor authentication bypass, protecting personal information, and then knowing if you've been hacked. So what next? Getting all of this right is hard. Do you want to know how you are doing, your organization is doing? We have a third party that analyzes our cyber risk. Costs just shy of $5,000 per analysis. We went ahead and purchased 5 for clients and prospects. We have 2 left that we can do at the time of this recording. But what we can do is get a free executive cybersecurity risk assessment. If you're listening to the recording, you'll have to email me, but direct message me in the chat for those who are live. And then, are you the right person for this? So first kind of concern or objection might be, you might be thinking that this is not my job, right? Here's the thing, keeping your company secure is everyone's responsibility, even if it's just taking the simple steps I shared with you earlier in this session. Are you completely protected? And then again, the next concern is, I'm already protected. I have someone doing this, someone that does this. Are you absolutely sure you're completely protected from ransomware and hackers? If you'd love to be able to answer yes, I am secure, I have a simple step for you. And don't worry, we will not need any passwords to do this. We will not need to install anything. Basically, we will send a simple tool that can run to analyze your network. Then we will sit down with you, review your results in plain English. And then finally, we give you some steps that you can take to protect yourself and your data. What's the catch? Just a little one. We can't do this for everyone. So, we have 2 available right now, again, as of this recording. We will put you on the wait list, and you can pay for assessment if you're not part of the 2. And then, we usually charge about $8,681, somewhere in there, for this type of analysis. So, but why am I doing this for free? So a group of us IT folks have come together on a mission to help protect 1 million people from hackers. Performing this analysis is one way to help that cause. So we can do a free executive cybersecurity risk assessment. Just directly message me in the chat or email me at lgroff@groffnetworks.com. Thank you for your time. Questions? Let me stop the recording and then I'll take some questions.